Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unit 2. We're jumping into genetics. As we're wrapping up Unit 1, we really were starting to talk about genetics and looking at how differences in alleles or tracking mutations throughout populations can let us know how closely or how distantly species are related to one another. Well, now we're going to shift gears a little bit and we're going to dive into talking about genetics. And we're going to take a deeper look into exactly how do genetics and how does DNA and genes and alleles, how does that actually determine the physical structure within living organisms, and how do differences in those genes and alleles result in different structures? So we started off today's lesson by asking, how is life similar or different for the kids in the video? So we watched a video of some kiddos, and we kind of looked at this question in two different ways. We looked at how are their lives similar and different to each other, and how are their lives similar or different to the lives that we live on a day-to-day basis? When we watched the video, we made some observations, and then we wrote some questions about the things that we were wondering about from the video. We drew on some personal experiences, and they helped us understand to help us understand maybe what's going on here, or maybe some background. And then we kind of decided which of the questions or which category of questions we thought was the most important one moving forward. So let's talk about what we noticed from the video. Some of our observations from the video is we noticed that among the children, there was a range of abilities. That we noticed that some of them were able to walk with support. They were able to do household tasks, climb ladders, ride bikes. And then there was others who were bound to wheelchairs, needed support with feeding, but all of them have required some kind of support at some level, whether it was breathing treatments or support in the car or leg braces or physical therapy. We noticed that they needed some kind of support. Some other observations we made were that their hands or joints were kind of stiff or in different positions that aren't typical just resting positions. We noticed that their arms and legs were all pretty slender. We also noticed that a lot of them wore glasses, a lot of them needed breathing treatments, and a lot of them had like very stiff neck joints or didn't have a lot of strength in their muscles. You guys asked some really good questions. Some of the questions that we asked were, what causes these children to have what they have? Why is it that the adults don't seem to have this? And why is it only boys that are affected from what we saw in the video? Some other questions that we asked is this curable? Is this something that can be cured? We also asked, what are the treatments? Which, besides what we saw, wheelchairs and breathing treatments and braces and physical therapy, what other treatments are available? We asked, how effective are the treatments that we saw them getting? We asked questions that, what is the long-term outcome? Do these children stay the way that they are, or does it progressively get worse? Then you guys asked some really great questions. We asked, do they get to go to school? What kinds of activities do they get to do that the typical kid their age gets to do? We asked, are they happy? We did a really good job focusing on the things that we saw them able to do and what supports they needed to be able to do other things. We talked about personal experiences that might help us answer these questions. And nobody in our class had really personal experiences beyond that we may have had a classmate. Some of us had some classmates with cerebral palsy. Some of us had some family members, or maybe some elderly family members who were wheelchair bound or had some type of maybe spina bifida or had some paralysis from an accident. But we didn't really know exactly what was going on with these kiddos. And the questions that we came up with, which were great questions, we decided that the category of question that would probably be the most important one to answer first would be, what is going on with these kids? What is causing whatever disease it is, what is causing the disease that they have? Is this something like a bacteria or a virus that we remember from back in talking about Addie? Or is this something genetic that's inherited? And so that's what we decided was the cause, and that's where we're going to be heading next. So we're going to do some research into DMD. Okay, what is DMD? Well, turns out that these kids all have a thing called Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And so you guys did some research to kind of, and looking at images and some internet and some research on the internet to kind of get an idea of what is the description, what are some of the symptoms, and maybe what are some of the treatments of a person with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. We created an initial model, kind of getting the idea of, okay, well, how do we think they got this disorder? And what might that, especially when we talked about the symptoms, what might this be doing to their muscles? Now, a lot of our models focused on skeletal muscles, things like our arms and our legs, because those are like the big muscle groups. But some of you guys did a good job in talking about, well, a lot of them using breathing treatments. So the muscles of the lungs. And a lot of them had glasses, or their eyes may have not been focusing or kind of moving. And so some of you guys also talked about the muscles of the eyes not doing what they need to be doing as well. So you did a really good job of creating models, showing what you think was going on, and especially how the disorder may be affecting different muscles throughout their body. So some similarities or differences that we had in our models is that some people's looked a little bit like a timeline. Some people drew larger exterior models, and some of us actually started to draw genes and chromosomes and to say, okay, well, let's look down at the microscopic level to see what's going on. And so we started to generate some new questions. And so from those questions, where we're headed next is we're going to look at how skeletal muscles work. We know that Duchenne's muscular dystrophy affects skeletal muscles because we could tell from the observations that they didn't have a lot of the upper body and lower body strength. They didn't have neck strength. Some of them had trouble with their lung muscles or their eye muscles. So we're going to look at how skeletal muscles work. And then we're going to dive in deeper to talk about how are healthy muscles different from the muscles of those who have Duchenne's muscular dystrophy.